Hello, and welcome to my review double feature of Super Mario 3D World and The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. It's getting increasingly more difficult to review games in Nintendo's longest-running franchises, as there's rarely much to say about these games that you don't already know. They're really good, both of them. These are Nintendo's biggest names, and they don't get released without the requisite polish and fine-tuning that you already expect them to have. Honestly, the best way to describe these games at this point is by comparing them in series. In that case, Super Mario 3D World is the sum of the US Super Mario Bros. 2 and Super Mario Bros. 3D Land, which was already pretty much just Super Mario Bros. 3 in 3D. It maintains the short, extremely concentrated, bite-sized level design of 3D Land, and adds to that the multiple character types from Mario 2. Luigi jumps higher, Toad is faster, Peach can float, and Mario is the all-rounder. There's multiplayer, and the game is absolutely huge. The only problems with the game is that it can get a little chaotic during multiplayer, especially because the camera still only sticks to one player, and that the game doesn't always afford you the best depth perception, which makes it a little hard to know exactly where you're jumping if you're not keeping an eye on your shadow. Aside from these small quibbles, though, the game is an absolute blast, and the new cat suit and double cherry power-ups are the best additions to Mario's armory since the Cloud suit in Galaxy 2. Next to the two Galaxy games, this probably is the best 3D Mario, and definitely breathes some life back into the series after the multiple new Super Mario Bros. Games in a row. A Link Between Worlds, on the other hand, despite proudly wearing its Link to the Past inspirations on its sleeve, does more to shake up the series than any other game, barring Ocarina of Time, and that a lot of it is in favor of streamlining the familiar Zelda formula. No longer do you have to find weapons in dungeons that you use for pretty much that dungeon alone and never again. Instead, you are given the ability to rent any item in the game from the get-go, allowing you to complete most of the game's dungeons in the order of your choosing. Because this system means needing more rupees than you've ever really needed in Zelda games, they've also decided to get rid of the wallet system, which means that you'll never have to avoid opening chests for fear of wasting rupees you can no longer hold. And they also nixed ammo in favor of a recharging magic meter, so no more worrying about running out of bombs either. This allows for a more open, yet streamlined design that I believe really improves the Zelda formula in a way I didn't even know it needed. A Link Between Worlds' other new mechanic is Link's ability to flatten himself onto a painting against a wall, and move two-dimensionally, a mechanic used to make some of the most memorable dungeons in franchise history. I can easily see this dethroning A Link to the Past as the best Zelda game for a lot of series diehards, and becoming the new Zelda by which we measure all forthcoming entries in the series. To wrap this up, you already know if you're getting these games. By this point, I'm sure many of you already have one or both of them and have probably beaten them by now. And if that's the case, you knew before these games even came out that they were for you. But if none of that applies to you, if this is indeed your first foray into the Mario or Zelda franchises, then I can only extend the most sincere recommendations. These two games, like Super Mario World and A Link to the Past in the 90s, mark a new generation's first perfect games. Super Mario 3D World and The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds both get a 10 out of 10. And if you want to read more on both of these franchises and how Nintendo creates games with such nostalgia factor, please follow this link, also in the description, to an article I wrote for Killscreen.com. Thanks for watching.